Dave here with Limitless Brave. A lot of people want to change their life, but not many people actually change their life. Most people say they want more love, more money, more success, a greater purpose in life, a better lifestyle in general. But nobody wants to walk through the basement to actually achieve that. Nobody wants to do the dirty work. You guys know the stuff you would never be caught dead posting on Instagram. The crying, the emotional turmoil, the shame, the guilt, the fears, the worries, the stuff that you barely talk about, but it eats you alive every single day. It's the stuff that built you to the place where you currently are, but it doesn't serve you anymore. And you feel like you're running in a circle that never gets any different results. It's easy to talk about the goals, the dreams, but when it comes to actually achieving that, that's a whole different story. It's not until you meet the version of yourself that you buried. The abused child, the traumatic child, the bullied teenager, the teenager that's been made fun of, the teenager that's been socially outcast, the college student that didn't make the frat or the team, the corporate young professional that is getting shit on because he doesn't know what he's doing. See, it's not until you acknowledge that these are truths of your life can you even do anything about it to shift your life. There's one common thing I see men try to do all the time, and that is build success on top of a very shaky foundation. They love to do the online courses, maybe do some in-person work, do the affirmations, do some transcendental meditation, take a yoga class, whatever it is. Take the cold plunge, whatever it is that makes you think you're moving in the right direction. But what you're doing is building something on top of a very shaky foundation. And that foundation is all the past trauma, all the stuff that you've buried in the shadows, all the stuff you don't ever want to look at or feel again. It's all the things that told you subconsciously you're not good enough. For example, many men want to get better at dating. Cool. But have you handled the abandonment issues? Have you handled the childhood traumas of mom giving you a hard time about girls? Maybe you got caught masturbating. Maybe you just don't feel good enough. You're undeserving, you're unworthy. Have you handled all that stuff? If you haven't, you're not gonna have a successful dating life. You're only gonna attract more and more damaged people into a relationship. The guys that do this, they're actually just chasing validation. They're not chasing anything real because when they get the validation hit, they repress all that shadow even more. So they chase a hot body, a pretty face, thinking that the shadow material that they've neglected for decades now will go away once they get that ultimate trophy wife, that ultimate trophy girlfriend. I'm telling you guys, it doesn't work that way. That stuff that you've repressed even more now will bubble up in that relationship and create a ton of problems. You guys that want a great career, want to run a successful business, what do you do every time you get close to winning? You sabotage yourself. You throw a wrench into the machine that you built. And guess what? Trouble shows up. Nothing's working. Because you have a sabotage program running because you don't think you deserve what you've earned. So what do? You damage it. You cause a problem. This isn't conscious behavior, guys. This is all subconscious programming, subconscious scripts that have been written way before this current time that you don't know about because nobody's pointed them out to you. And most people don't know how to point them out to you. So you can see the web of problems you've built for yourself that cause continued sabotage in your business, in your career. A lot of it comes from not feeling good enough, undeserving, unworthy feelings within inside ourselves. And where does that come from? childhood. Most of the time, it's coming from childhood. It can come from teenage years as well. This is a real big one for a lot of guys. Making peace with their family. The family unit is usually a safe place, but not for a lot of men. A lot of men have grown up in violent, in emotionally erratic households. Physical abuse, emotional abuse, being told they weren't good enough, having to figure out their own survivability because mom and dad were incapable of showing that to them. They never received unconditional love. They never received approval, appreciation, and acceptance from the people that are supposed to be there to protect you. And what does all this cause? It causes a dysfunctional relationship with your family, which creates a dysfunctional relationship with yourself. And anybody that comes in contact with you is now a part of that dysfunction. It's not your fault, guys. It's the environment you were raised in. And all of this can be corrected, but it takes some work. It takes some willingness, some bravery to admit, hey, I need help. See, shadow work isn't glamorous. It's definitely not exciting. It can be a miserable experience, emotionally, physically. But I'll tell you what, I do the best I can to make it as fun and as positive as it possibly can be as we dig through traumatic events, as we dig through horrible relationships, as we dig through the sabotage programs that you guys have been creating. It's not a fun experience, but it can be. And the way that I teach it, I make it as fun as possible, as light as possible. And just because we use the word shadow doesn't mean that it's something negative. There can be a lot of positives in our shadow, just under the surface of conscious thinking. And that's a great place to start looking. And in the shadow workshops that I run, that's where we start. And then we just go down that rabbit hole until we hit some really serious core emotional experiences that have been working against you instead of helping you. I know every single one of you has said to yourself at one point, how do I keep ending up here? Why does this keep repeating? Why do I keep attracting the same type of partner? Why is it when I get close to success, it just vaporizes in front of my face? This is all the shadow, guys. These are all scripts that have been pre-programmed into you from a very young age that don't serve you anymore and create havoc in your adult life. Many of you search for answers outside of yourself. Well, guys, they're not out there. They're in here. They're underneath the surface. They're never out here. Out here is just reflecting what's really going on internally. So you got to look underneath the stories that you tell yourself. You got to take the masks off that you wear. You really have to look at the parts of yourself that feel unlovable, unworthy, afraid, worried, jealous, angry, full of hate. That's the shadow. That's where you need to start doing work. It's not out here. Once all of those things start to shift internally and we start viewing them and seeing them in a different light, releasing them and letting them go, now the external experience starts changing. And it will not change until the internal experience changes first. As the internal experience of yourself and your past changes, the future changes, the external experience changes, the relationships get better. You are able to attract the hotter girl, the more well-rounded girl, the girl that's less dramatic, that has less trauma herself. And you start forming great relationships this way. But until you do this work, it's not going to happen, guys. You're not going to be able to close more sales. You're not going to be able to grow the business until you take care of all those feelings of unworthiness, undeservingness, the sabotaging patterns that you have running in the background that directly affect your business. You start to see your family for what they are, what they're willing to change and what they're not willing to change. You have to remember, when you start working on yourself and family doesn't, well, you're going to start judging them, not on purpose, but by accident, because you're willing to do the work and admit things, but they aren't. And so as you change and become a better version of yourself, they'll start seeing that, and they'll either be threatened by it or they'll start appreciating it and start changing themselves. I've seen it happen with many men who have had difficult relations with their family. Once they started changing, the family dynamic started changing. And you've only got one family, guys. So you might as well make it as best as you possibly can. Now, if you don't have a family, join the Limitless Brave private reserve community. I've got a link in the description below. We've got a great group of guys in this community. I'm in there every day answering questions, helping guys out, because I want you guys to win. So I'm going to ask you guys a question, and there's only two answers to this question. Are you going to do the work on yourself to change the trajectory of your future? Or are you going to continue to stay in the same patterns, the same belief systems, getting the same results that you have, that have led you to at least look for help online? That's why you're here. That's why you're watching this video. You're looking for something that's not happening in your life. Why else would you seek out coaching? See, when you decide to man up and say, hey, I need help, and you get yourself into a shadow workshop with me, that's when life really starts changing. Now, these shadow workshops are about 3 days long. I'm running the next one in Bucharest at the end of October. These are very intense, very exciting, very fun, and sometimes very silly workshops. Why? Because I'd love to trigger all of that garbage in the shadow, bring it to the surface so that you can deal with it along with my guidance, with my help, to eradicate it or use it to your advantage to create more power within inside yourself. We have psychological exercises. We have embodiment exercises. We have guided meditations. We have group activities that we do together to support each other and challenge each other's shadow. We have shadow interrogation, something that the guys love to do because you get to challenge each other on your own bullshit. We have drawing exercises, as silly as that sounds. Those are part of more of the psychological exercises that show you your natural tendencies of behavior and reaction to things. So guys, I hope you join me in a shadow workshop. The next one's in Bucharest, the end of October. I'll put the link below for you. If you got any questions, reach out. I hope to see you in a shadow workshop. It will change your life forever. That is a promise and a guarantee that I can give you. Because the guys that have already done my shadow workshops, months after taking them, they're still having realizations and changes in their own life where life is getting better and better and better. That's how deep we work, because if we weren't working that deep, you wouldn't have realizations 3, 4, or 5 months after a workshop.